Have you ever met someone in his 40s or 50s or 60s telling you that they can't learn anymore because they have already passed the learning age? Have you ever heard someone say, I am too old to learn this or that? Maybe you have even said it to yourself. Perhaps about learning a new skill, learning a new language, or understanding a new technology, or even AI. That AI is for the Gen Z. They strongly believe that they cannot learn. Are you suggesting that your brain has an expiration date? But what if your age isn't the barrier you think it is? What if you knew that you had total control? Total control to restructure your brain to start functioning the way you prefer. Hi, I am Smart Akbar. Welcome to my channel, where I teach people how to learn effectively. I provide insightful scientific strategies for personal development, critical thinking, and problem solving. And today, we are diving into how the human brain interacts with information, how we learn, and how to develop irresistible learning habits at any age. How does the human brain interact with information? How do we learn? How do we develop an irresistible learning habit? Before the 1960s, scientists and almost the entire population used to believe that the human brain was fixed and unchangeable like concrete after childhood, till that belief was challenged. Scientists used to believe that once the human brain is fully developed, no new neurons could form and the structure of the brain remained static throughout the human life. It was a well-known idea that was rooted in the concept of neural determinism, which of course suggested that intelligence, abilities, talents, and even personalities were largely set from birth. But a superior knowledge was discovered when magnetic resonance imaging scans revealed what they called neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to form new neural connections throughout life. That new discovery provided concrete evidence that the brain remains adaptable even in older age. Your brain can rewire itself, adapt and grow no matter your age. Older adults can learn new skills. Your brain has the ability to rewire itself to learn anything at any age. As of 1959, the total population of the entire world was approximately 3 billion people. Imagine a world where all about 3 billion people used to live with this unshakable belief system that their brains were fixed and unchangeable after childhood, that learning, growth, and adaptation were actually impossible once you pass a certain age. So why bother teaching adults when you know their brains can't change? So schools were now focusing only on children, assuming adults couldn't learn new skills. They say you can't teach an OW tricks. So why try it? Why wasting your time? So some people used to believe that intelligence is a divine gift from God, especially here in Africa, where some families still believe till today that some people were created to be intelligent, some people were created to be educated, while others were created to remain who they are, what they are, and where they are. So they say some people's brain were not designed for education, were not meant to be educated. So the poor will stay uneducated, untrained, trapped by the accident of birth. Why work hard if your fate is sealed? After all, geniuses are born, not made. In some cultures, intelligence was tied to birthright, denying education to lower classes. Cognitive decline was accepted as a normal way of life, with no effort toward the training and rehabilitation of the human brain. So many people unknowingly live with a fixed mindset, thinking they are too old to learn new skill, to start new business, to recover from setback. So they keep up the hope and the opportunity to start all over again. A few years ago, I sat down with a woman. Let's say her name is Ada. That's not her real name, but let's say her name is Ada. She was 46, a mother of 3. who felt she wasted years without much to show for it. So during our conversation, she said to me, "Smart, I've wasted so many years. Look at my life. What do I have to show for it?" So looking at her, you could tell that she was hopeless and frustrated. So I asked her, what if you start learning something new? Maybe a new skill, maybe a trade, maybe business or anything. Just start learning something new. And as soon as I made that suggestion, I noticed her face suddenly changed. She leaned back and then looked at me as if I said something absurd. Alright. So the next thing I heard was, at this age, Smart, at this age, I am 46, I have 3 children, and I have to work to feed them. How can that be possible, Smart? How can that be possible? I could understand the hard times she went through in life. I had deep empathy for her. I tried to encourage her, but her mind was already made up. She wished her life was different. She wished she could change her situation. She wished she could do something about it. But she wasn't convinced that the power and the potential to change her entire life was right within her control. And that power is in her brain. She didn't know that all she needed was to change the structure of her brain and rewire the brain to start functioning the way she would prefer. Right? That power is within her control. No one could do that for her. She didn't see the reason to activate that power. Her age was never the barrier. Her mindset was. Her belief system was. Let me tell you another similar story. There was a woman, a mother of 5. She had 4 beautiful daughters, and her only son was the last child. She was 49 years old. And just like Ada, she had a dream. She always wanted to be a lawyer, but her life happened to her. At the age of 16, just as she was about to write her WAEC, she got pregnant. The father of her child was also another secondary school student like her. So overwhelmed by shame and fear of what classmates and teachers will say, she dropped out of school. And just like that, her dream faded into the background. Alright. So years passed. She focused on raising her children, watching them grow, while silently carrying the weight of an unfulfilled dream. But at the age of 49, something changed. She made a decision to challenge everything she once believed about herself. So she went back to secondary school, wrote WAEC, sat for JAM, and then gained admission to study law at the University of Port Harcourt. At the age of 55, she graduated. At 57, she was called to the bar. So think about that for a moment. For almost 4 decades, she believed that her time had passed, that she was too old to learn anything. She was too old to learn new skills, that her brain couldn't handle studying anymore. But the moment she challenged that belief, her entire life changed. And that is the power of neuroplasticity that I was talking about. The ability of your brain to adapt, the ability of your brain to change structure, to form new habits, to form new connections, to form new experiences, the ability of your brain to grow. So this woman was able to rewire her brain. She activated the power she always had. Her age was never the barrier. Her mindset was. And the truth is, the only wasted time in life is the time spent believing you are powerless. The biggest difference between these two women wasn't intelligence. It wasn't because one was more talented than another. It wasn't because one was more intelligent than another. It was their belief system. Ada's fixed mindset kept her stuck, while the mother of 5 adopted a growth mindset and rewired her brain for success. Every skill you learn strengthens your brain. The mother of 5 was out of school for years, but when she returned, her brain adapted to the new learning process, new concept, and sat for exams. She was strengthening her brain, right? She was strengthening her neural pathways, and the way she did that, the more intelligent she became. All right. Think of your brain like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Learning isn't about age, it's about mindset. It's about training your brain to gain mastery of something. Every expert was once a bad beginner until they were able to train their brain to become an expert in something. Right? So your brain has a well-structured organs and departments that are responsible for different but complementary functions. Okay? So your brain is like a city, let's say a city like Lagos, for example. And within the city of Lagos are the basic rules that keep everything running, like traffic lights, roads linking to one another, bus stops, pedestrians, bridges, traffic controllers, you know. So fundamentally speaking, without these basic rules and structures, there is no way the city of Lagos can function effectively, right? You just imagine to wake up in the morning planning to go somewhere, right? But there is no road that links from your house to where you intend to go. Imagine cars everywhere within the city, but there are no traffic lights or traffic controllers to help maintain order within the city. Imagine there are no bus stops within the city and no demarcation between human beings and cars, right? So understanding the structure and functions of your brain is fundamental to mastering the learning process. Without this knowledge, developing effective learning strategies and habits can be very, very challenging. So according to neuroscience, your brain has what they call neurons, responsible for receiving and transmitting information. And these cells keep sending messages to each other, right? Okay? You texting your friend and your friend texting you back or replying to you, okay? You know when you text your friend and that means they're chatting with somebody and the person is chatting you back, replying to you, okay? So neurons or brain cells are the building blocks of the brain. They are like workers in a factory. Without them, nothing gets done. Every thought, every movement, learning, feelings happen because neurons process and transmit information. And neurons are the primary cells responsible for receiving and transmitting information. Please pay more attention to this. It's very, very important. I said neurons are the primary cells, okay? So without neurons, we cannot learn anything as human beings. Without neurons, your brain cannot make sense out of any information. Without neurons, you cannot form a habit. You cannot set to be a human being, a functional human being without neurons. So neurons are the foundations of all learning, thinking, and memory. All right. So every knowledge and expertise comes from the basics. No knowledge can be properly developed without the foundation. And it is neurons that determine the foundation of learning. Okay. So this should give you enough hope and confidence that you have the ability to learn anything because neurons receive information. So when you read, listen to someone, or experience something new, your neurons collect that data. Neurons process and store information. Neurons process and store data in your brain. Okay, so your brain analyzes new knowledge and determines if such knowledge should be preserved or stored in memory. It is the responsibility of neurons to do that. So without neurons, there is no learning, no memory, no intelligence, just an empty brain without ability to process anything. Neuron strengthens with repetition. The more you learn and practice, the stronger the connections between neurons become, making learning easier and faster, right? And that is where the concept of synapses comes in. Synapses are enablers that help your brain cells communicate with one another. Right? Synapses are the brain's built-in communication network. Please mark the word network. Alright. So just like telecom signals enable phone conversation, synapses enable neurons to talk to each other. Okay? It is the core reason why we have the ability to think, the ability to learn, the ability to remember and act as human beings, right? So synapses in the brain are just like network signals on a phone that enable communication. So without network coverage, your phone is just a device with no way to send or receive messages, right? Similarly, without synapses, your brain will be full of neurons that can communicate with each other. Your phone needs a network signal to make calls, send text message, and browse the internet. Your brain needs synapses to transfer information between neurons from point A to point B. So it is synapses that take information from one neuron to another. So every time you are trying to call someone, your phone converts your voice into what they call electromagnetic signals, right? And transmit them. The same thing happened here. The same process is here. Neurons in your brain convert electrical impulses into neurotransmitter that travel across synapses, right? I'm just trying to do everything possible to break it down to my audience, for my audience to understand exactly what I'm saying. So if there is no network signals, no messages or calls can go through. If there are no synapses, neurons cannot communicate, making thinking and movement impossible. All right. So a stronger network signals means faster and clearer communication. Please note that stronger synaptic connections through learning and repetition, learning and repetition leads to better memory, faster thinking, and skill mastery. Again, the word repetition. So strengthening your synapses through learning and repetition is like upgrading your network for faster and clearer communication. I'm sure somebody's learning something here. So neurons always communicate via synapses. Once neurons process the information, they send signals to other neurons through synapses to reinforce learning. Okay, so let me give you some practical example. Let's take writing for example. When you start practicing writing for the first time, it feels difficult when you get started, right? But as you write more often, as you keep writing, your brain begins to strengthen the pathways that control your hand movement, and understanding of language. All right. So let's say you are speaking English, and then you want to start learning how to write in English. All right. So every time you are writing, your brain begins to strengthen the pathway that control your handwriting, your hand movements, and English language. All right. So when you keep doing that, when you keep practicing writing over time, writing becomes easier and more natural. All right. That's the work of repetition, and that is the work of neuroplasticity. Another example is driving a car. At first, driving requires a lot of focus because your brain is learning to coordinate different actions like steering, braking, and watching the road. All right. So with regular practice, these actions become automatic as your brain strengthens the necessary connections. Right. Let me also use social media for example. You know, we get used to social media. We are addicted. Most of us are addicted to social media now. Okay. So frequently checking social media can train your brain to seek quick rewards like messages and likes or comments. All right. So it is the reason why you want to check your phone more often. Right? Every time you pick your phone, the first thing you want to check is Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever social media. You want to know what is going on there. All right. So that is how repeated behavior can shape our habits. So neurons are the brain's learning machines. Synapses are the wiring that connect learning together. Once you understand that the power to change your life lies in your ability to restructure your brain through intentional actions and behavior, then the audacity, boldness, and self-confidence that allow you to start learning new skills, reading new books, adding value to your life, begin to take imminent root in your life. You have to remember that embracing the struggle is how we grow. Age doesn't stop learning, doubt does. Thanks for watching. Don't miss the next video where we will discuss practical step-by-step methods for building irresistible learning habits. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with someone who would love to hear this too.